start looking at all the craziness going on in the world, the Catholic world, the secular world.
Yeah.
I'm hoping next year, we can start really mining our Franciscan tradition more to kind of address some of these topics and really give a good stories of discipline, of Christian practices, of things to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there's a lot just going on. And I don't know.
And St. Francis has a lot of techniques and a lot of advice for us, or at least the Franciscan tradition in general does, for how to deal with all of this stuff. And there's a lot going on.
There is, and it's just a feeling, and I think a lot of people feel it, whether you're liberal, Democrat, Christian, non-Christian. Our society and even the world as a whole, at least the Western world, seems to be literally imploding. There's no secure footing on anything anymore. And so I think more than ever, we need to return to our traditional, well-known and well-documented in terms of being able to, stop this kind of thing and turn people's lives around, fact of the faith. But with that, why don't we talk about some of the things? What are some of the things that you've been thinking about as we've been coming down to the end?
I think probably the biggest thing within the Catholic world right now is that the German church is like on the brink of schism. Yeah. Their whole synodal way it's something that they've been warned against proceeding with, or going any further with by basically like every top Vatican official, including like Pope Francis himself, right?
Right.
And it seems like they just want to defiantly keep going. And I think probably the most disturbing thing to come out of this whole process over the last 3 months has been that they did vote on their final document, and it was a very non-Catholic document.
Yeah.
And wasn't it something like almost 2/3 of the bishops, not quite 2/3, because I think they needed to hit 2/3 approval for it to be adopted.
To pass.
But it was almost there. Like it was something like 60% instead of 66% of them, or something like that. I forget.
Yeah.
I forget the details, but it was a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's one big thing. What do you think? Are we going to see a German schism in the near future? Is that something we get to look forward to next year? Or?
I hope not. It's just the state of the church in general throughout the world is so ailing right now that we really need to recognize it. And I think the thing that's frustrating for me is the church, in my opinion, just my opinion, and not just the American church, in fact, I think the American church is a little better in general than we've seen in Europe. We're starting to approach issues, and rather being the church of our truth, that we stand in our truth, it seems like we've become a church of causes, and then we sort of resemble like a political group. And when that happens, I think the church does lose credibility. I think we believe in ecology as well. However, a lot of times the methods and means we adopt, as just one example, is very much the secular way of it, and then I think it confuses people, And I know that all these things are part of the faith, but I think we talk a lot about the new evangelization, but in fact, we don't actually focus our message, or it seems to be we don't a lot, on the kerygma. Who is Jesus? What is salvation?
Yeah.
And then from that, then we can begin to branch out into what does this mean in our daily life. And
right.
Maybe you want to mention just things about Disney right now and stuff, as once a cultural icon of everyone really in the United States and beyond, and now really almost like an enemy against the traditional family, at least, and everything else.
So yeah, you're completely correct. Just finishing up that last thought is, we as Catholics, especially as Franciscans, we love the idea of stewardship of the earth and stuff, and we would love for our church to embrace that mission in a way that also is just, it emanates the truth of who Christ is, and it isn't so much of, well, we'd like to adopt this public policy,
right,
or this thing that these politicians are trying to push on us. It's more about, can we teach the truth, the theology about why we're stewards, and make that our mission more than, adopting these different social movements that are happening. Yeah.
And it kind of, I from personal experience, because I do work with I'm part of the chairperson of the ecumenical group of our diocese, but I'm also connected with the ecology thing and such. And I was at a talk, and I actually was one of the speakers. There was a main speaker who was a scientist who's part of the Vatican's whole thing on ecology. And then there were 3 or 4 of us speakers afterwards from different faith traditions. And the guy next to me, I believe he was Lutheran, but I don't recall. His whole thing was talking about Greta Thunberg and the movement. And like, it was funny because by the time it came to me, I was second or third out of the group. I was kind of nervous because I actually had a theological thing. I talked about Genesis and the story and what that meant. But it was funny afterwards, the reaction of the normal audience people, who are all, for the most part, Christian of one sort or another. So many of them came up to me and thanked me, and I was the one who got all the questions at the thing, because the other ones just sounded like activists. And I mean, you can hear that anywhere. You don't have to go to a Christian understanding of ecology to hear the activism, but how does faith deal with these issues? And I think that's something we've, the other thing too.
Well, faith is the rudder that helps make sure that your energies are being directed in the right trajectory in order to accomplish the mission too.
Yeah.
If you don't have that lens and you don't have that rudder, you're just gonna you'll take a lot of really good energy or potentially good energy, and it'll just be chaos.
Wasted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it focuses on people and human life. Like all this stuff they talk about, it's almost like you don't want any kind of humans to touch the earth. So it needs to be untouched. Don't mess with it. Don't that's the idea, to the point where human deaths don't matter because we want to preserve the earth.
Yeah.
And that's the issue that I think is what isn't being recognized, is that we've gotten to a point where the idea of humanity using any resources is considered evil.
Yeah.
And the point of the earth is not that, So.
Yeah, stewardship doesn't mean you can't have dominion over the earth. It just means that you need to have dominion in an ordered way, But yeah, so Chris, you brought up Disney.
Yeah.
And there was a big move at Disney recently where their CEO, who was their CEO of Disney Corporation for only like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Bob Chapek.
He got fired.
Two Bobs.
So. Yeah, there's 2 Bobs. So Bob Iger was there. Then Bob Chapek was there. Here's another funny story involving my wife. We were at Disneyland for her birthday, and Bob Chapek happened to be sitting at the table right next to us. And so all the people who sang happy birthday to her, Bob Chapek was one of the guys. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, so Bob Chapek, he was the CEO of the Disney company for Disney Corporation for 2 or 3 years, and now he's been fired, and Bob Iger is back now.
And I'll have to say, I was disappointed because at least the buzz I heard when Chapek took over, specifically in regards to the Star Wars franchise, which is what I love so much,
Yeah, me too.
It was that he was going to kind of
right the ship a little bit.
Yeah, make it, and obviously not only did that not happen, but I'm sure as you'll tell us, they're not only in the Star Wars thing, which there wasn't so much, but the other medium, their other movies and stuff are just.
Yeah, I just wonder. So, as a father of children who are in a target demo for Disney movies, I am worried that. Because Disney is a very powerful Hollywood entity. They have a massive catalog of things, And I think it's safe to say that for children's programming in terms of quantity, production quality, ease of access, there is no one that really even comes close to rivaling Disney.
Yeah.
Like Disney is like the company that produces quote children or family fare.
So keep it going, Daily Wire. Come on.
I know, Daily Wire. I'm looking forward to. They hired the VeggieTales guys to do their chinchilla TV show. I'm interested to see what comes of that, and I'm really hopeful for it too. And we subscribe to Daily Wire because we believe in that.
Like let me just give one example and let you continue. Like I was, it's almost like I want to keep giving them chances because
Disney?
Yeah, because the franchises they're in charge of are so many beloved things.
Yeah.
The Marvel Universe, Star Wars. And it really came to a head for me just a week or so ago, and I mentioned it to you briefly, is I know it's not one of his best well-known movies by any means, but I have always loved Willow, the movie. I thought it was a great movie. I showed it to my kids years ago when they were younger. I mean, my kids are still young, high school and below. But they love that movie. It's definitely more geared towards children type stuff, but it's still a good movie. You know, the characters, everything in that.
Yeah.
So I knew the new limited series was coming out about it, and literally in the first 10 minutes, you have women kissing. A large part of the storyline is the princess doesn't want to marry the prince, pretty much because she's gay, and everything about the show was, and it's not even about Willow. He's in it, but it's not.
Yeah.
And so I just wonder, these franchises, it's like they take these characters and they've become famous and beloved because of a certain storyline, a certain idea, and of course stories have to move forward, but there should be an organic reality to the story. It should still follow the same trajectory, because that's natural life. But then they sort of shove the stuff so blatantly down.
They shove a socio-political
and I just won't even finish
things.
it. At this point, I'm not even going to finish the
series.
series.
Didn't watch the whole thing?
They haven't finished it. They had 2 episodes, and they've released a third one, but I haven't watched it since. And maybe when it's all said and done, I'll go back and look at them. But, at this point, even if they brought in Val Kilmer, I might watch that episode.
Val Kilmer?
Just as Mad Mardigan, because he's missing.
I heard a rumor Mad Mardigan is not dead. He is missing.
Right, he's missing. So
yeah. So I bring up Disney because of that. It was one thing if you have the people working at Disney believe a certain thing, but that stays in their heads and it doesn't reveal itself in the media that they produce, right? If the people that work for Disney or lead Disney, right, the leadership teams at Disney have certain anti-Catholic, anti-Christian beliefs, but that doesn't wind up in the products that they sell, that's one thing. But now, more than ever before, a lot of challenging political and social ideas that don't jive with de fide are showing up in the media that Disney produces. Yeah. So I guess it's been a labor for me and Aaron. We're trying to reason through it at this moment, and that's why I wanted to bring it up tonight. Is it time for us? Is something that we look forward to in 2023? Us pulling the plug on Disney in the house, you know? Because there's a lot of good stuff in their old catalog, but now in order to get it, we have to fund the stuff that they're producing now, which we don't agree with, you know? Yeah. So, what do you think? What would your advice be?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, as silly as it sounds, I'm about the only one who watches the Disney Channel. My older girls are more connected to Netflix and those kind of things.
You keep holding out for Star Wars? It's going to be good.
I keep hoping. I do. And I will say, I'll give a little plug to Andor. The one that I could care less about going into the year, because Andor, I'm like, one character, one movie, he died in it.
Yeah.
No real... But I'll tell you, I think it's the same writers who did the movie Rogue One. So they've at least kept Star Wars. Okay.
Okay.
And so for that, I've been happy. I think it's actually a good one. But all the other ones, they're just... And then the Marvel ones have just been trash. I was actually watching the new Thor, and my wife came in.
Love and Thunder?
Yes. My wife came in, and she just watched a few scenes, not knowing what's going on. She actually, in full truth, turned to me and said, "Is this a parody someone's doing?" And I said, "No, that's the real movie." And she was like, "Oh, okay." I mean, they're terrible. The Eternals was terrible. This one's terrible. They just...
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I have not cared about any Marvel movie since Endgame.
Oh, I know.
or Marvel.
Well, you
TV
shocked me
show.
when you burned out on Star Wars. You wouldn't even go see. What was it with me? You wouldn't. You're
Solo.
Like, Solo.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see it in the theater,
Dude,
which ended up
I
meaning
just
I didn't see it in
knew.
the theater, and
I
so
just
that was the
knew.
only movie I've never saw in the theater from the beginning. Because I was born. I'm a lot older than you guys, so I saw from episode 4 on, and so
I know you were there.
it's
OG
it's sad.
1977.
Yeah. So.
So Solo to this day I have not watched, even though it's on Disney Plus. Haven't bothered, and like Marvel is kind of the same way. Even though I have easy access to all the movies that are on streaming, like there are so many now of the new ones I haven't seen, because I think that this is the other problem. Disney, even before they started really leaning into activism, that was really opposed to our Catholic beliefs, right? They were still they were also just making movies that weren't good, right? I feel like
Yes, that's
we have
just churning stuff out.
The reason why Star Wars, the original 3 movies, were so good was because you saw a character grow in virtue and go from being whiny teenager to being a man, and taking the place of his mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You see Luke Skywalker go through that journey, and then involved in that is his need. He becomes a Jedi truly when he's able to confront his father and get his father to repent of the sinfulness that he's committed in his life, right? I mean, it jives so well with our Catholicism, but now you look at basically the new Star Wars, you look at the Marvel Universe, and the Marvel Universe is just...
Thor's a perfect example. His trajectory never changes.
Right.
Like, here we are, 3 of his own movies, several Avenger movies, part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and the guy still doesn't know what his place is in life.
Yeah.
What I'm supposed to do. It's just the ongoing sort of no commitment sort of thing.
Because it was so episodically done, in the sense that you need to have the ability to kind of go follow a bunch of movies in order to really just get the complete, I guess, overarching story. That was from phase 1 through 3 and Endgame and stuff, right? To me, it almost felt like you were just watching a longer version of a sitcom. Mm-hmm. After a certain point, it was like, okay, it's just funny and there's some action. And so it felt like junk food to me, Marvel. And I didn't feel like the characters actually taught us, the viewer, something about virtue and about growing in virtue and about teens becoming a man, outside of a few instances, like Tom Holland's Spider-Man has really good moments, and then Iron Man, of course, has really good moments. Yeah. And
the first one, the next 2 were...
Yeah, the next 2 are bad, but in all of his cameos and in the Avenger movies, Iron Man had probably the only, like, actual character growth. Yeah. Like an actual arc where he needs to examine himself, change, and then the change kind of takes hold and resonates. So I don't know, I just haven't been into the Marvel movies, because to me it feels like junk food a little bit, Yeah.
I have to admit, one of my favorite of the last few years, one of my favorite movies was Shazam, because it was just corny, but it went back to just sort of normal superhero stuff, like the guy figuring out his powers. He's like, it didn't have some deep social message. I always feel nowadays like I'm watching some Hallmark movie where you have to have a message at the end, where like how we can all be brothers and stuff. And it's just like, can I just watch a movie?
Aaron and I have been doing a like every other night during Advent. We've been doing a Hallmark drinking game that we found online, and you'd be surprised. A lot of the movies don't give you a lot of avenues to drink. You would think. I will say, though, something that they all have in common, every single one that we've watched so far, there's at least 1 or 2 dead family members that get referenced over and over and over again. And all of them.
At least the older ones were always like, a woman's struggle against, and then just fill in the blank.
If you enjoyed that conversation with me, Brother Justin, and
Brother Chris,
then please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you can follow more of our fantastic conversations such as these. And don't forget, check out our store on Etsy, One Holy Catholic, to support this channel with all of your wonderful money.
link below.